is about to make history once again. Racing for the first time in England, first time on an oval. But the thoughts here conflicted because many of the fans, as well as the drivers and teams, are still thinking of last week and the condition of Alex Zanardi. Many banners here and all the cars carrying this decal. Hi and welcome to England. I'm Paul Page. First, let's talk about Alex Zanardi. His legs, of course, were amputated in that accident just 1 week ago. And there was some concern that when he came conscious again, what might be his reaction? Well, that happened just 2 days ago, and when he did and was told that his legs were gone, he looked at his wife and said, I have my wife, I have my son, and I have my life, and that's all that I need. And today, he was actually calling from the hospital to the racetrack to find out how the cars were doing and what was going on. Well, what is going on? Now, they've got some weeper problems here. That's water oozing up through the surface of this brand new racetrack.
On Thursday, the sessions were rained out. On Friday, the weather was clear, but this water, because of the clay subsoil, was seeping back up through the track, once again canceling all sessions. That means that today, coming into this race, the drivers have had very limited track time. How does that affect the drivers? Well, not very much. At this level of motorsports, each of the drivers learn tracks very, very quickly. The onus of responsibility for performance then, that falls squarely on the shoulders of the engineers. Do they have the right starting air pressure for the tires? Have they set the chassis up correctly with the right springs, the right shock absorbers? Do they have the right gears in the car? Well, today there's a lot of guessing going up and down this pit road prior to this green flag. Whoever's guessed right, well, they'll be at the front. Should make for a very interesting race.
ESPN Speed World is in Great Britain, the United Kingdom, at Corby, the Rockingham Speedway, for the Rockingham 500. Let's begin by going to Gary Gerald.
On this unique compressed schedule today, it's been a whirlwind, especially for the crews. They've really been stressed trying to make engine changes to be race ready. The drivers say in their first impressions, this track faster than anybody anticipated. We had 3 drivers over 215 miles per hour. The grip level is very good, and they're saying that as they get rubber on the track, they can almost flat-foot it all the way around, almost like it's a giant circle. The speeds will be high, the stress on the engine will be great. In the installation laps, 1 driver didn't get full speed. That was Patrick Carpentier. He starts 7th. They had a problem, they've addressed it, but they're going basically blind into this race. We'll see how it works out for him and all the others here in England.
And without any qualifying, the starting grid is created by the order in the points. Kenny Breck took the points lead again last week, so he is on the pole with Jill DeFerrin on the outside. Row 2 is Michael Andretti and Elio Castroneves. The 3rd row, Scott Dixon and Dario Franchitti. Patrick Carpentier and Cristiano D'Amata make up the next row. Moving down into the 6th row, Tracy and Pappas, Fittipaldi, Tagliani, row 7. Row 8, Bruno Junqueira, Jimmy Vasser, the 9th row, Fernandez and Oriol Servian. Row 10, Gidley and Herta, then Jourdain Jr. and Takagi, Gugelman and Wilson, and Senji Nakano and Townsend Bell make up the final row. Let's take a look at the track here.
1.479 miles, a big bowl. The drivers are turning most of the time. Top speed, that's on the way into turn 1, almost 225 miles an hour. Slowest corner is mid-corner in turn 1, where they slow down to about 195. Turns 2, 3, and 4, flat out. The drivers pulling over 4 Gs. Very, very strenuous. The drivers have to be very precise in many places on this track. High level of grip, passing opportunities, that's up to the driver's imagination.
They were scheduled for 210 laps. They've shortened the distance now to 168.
If it goes green, it's going to be difficult to make it in 2 stops, but the first yellow, that'll be the opportunity everyone will take to make it a 3-stop race.
So in Rockingham, England, we'll be back for the very first green flag to CART right after these messages.
Today's ESPN Speed World coverage of the CART Rockingham 500K is brought to you by FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series, and by Honda, proud sponsor of the 2001 FedEx Championship Series.
And from the beautiful little town of Corby, not far away from Rockingham Motor Speedway, we are live. The engines have been started. The field is ready to go. The practice speeds from earlier today again scrambled because of the speed that the field ran is not reflective of the way they have lined up. Tony Kanaan, the second week in a row, showing that he was very, very quick. And yet he's going to start 10th here owing to his points position. And Kenny Breck, who is the pole sitter, he came out on sticker tires, Parker.
He did, and something I haven't seen before, the pace car pulled off early, allowing the drivers to get up to speed, get some heat in their tires. Kenny Breck nearly catching the back of the field. So now on this final formation lap, Kenny is right back down to 25, 30 miles an hour, entering turn 3, allowing the back of the field to catch up.
Jill DeFerrin there alongside, Castor Nevis right behind him, and of course Michael Andretti on the inside of the second row. Michel Jourdain Jr. had a little bit of a problem on the start of the engines. His car would not start, and it took about 2 minutes before they finally got it going, but he's now taken his place in the field. There's the pit entrance. The fourth and final turn is just ahead.
See sticker tires both on Kenny Breck and Michael Andretti's car as they start this race.
Looking for the flag for the first time as they come on the front straightaway, and here we go. Couple of puffs of smoke back in the field. We've seen that before, off especially the Toyota engines. No issue there. Off at turn 1, going for 2. And DeFerrin gets a nose ahead of Kenny Breck and now begins to pull away. Into turn 4. And DeFerrin will lead the first.
Oh, big spin! Max Pappas coming off at turn 4 has not hit anything yet.
Several other cars going for cover.
Unbelievable bit of driving.
Got one into the wall, though, that's lost a rear wing.
That's Tora Takagi. Max Pappas looked like he lost it coming off the 4th corner, Paul, and at over 200 miles an hour drove that car. 180 degrees backwards. We also see Bruno Junqueira out.
Junqueira was the one that actually lost the rear wing on that. There were cars sliding everywhere. Owing to the shortness of the straightaway, you don't normally see that kind of thing. It came pinching off the corner.
And I have never seen anybody 200 miles an hour backwards for so long as Max Pappas. Did a phenomenal job keeping that car going dead straight at that speed. Waited till he got down to the first corner, spun it back around, and kept going. Absolutely phenomenal. We don't know quite what started this chain reaction. Max Pappas finishing second to Kenny Breck last weekend in Germany. Look at the length of the marks from Max Pappas. Absolutely unbelievable.
Well, here it is as the leader DeFerrin came across the line.
Coming off the 4th corner, that's Max Pappas. Everyone else diving for cover. Look at Max trying to figure out where he is in relationship to the track. Keeps it straight. You can see the contact there with Takagi. Other car scrambling. Roberto Moreno narrowly missing Max Pappas. Here it is once again. You can see Bruno looks like he got tapped by Takagi. You can see Townsend Bell looking for cover there. Townsend already passing a number of cars on the opening few corners there. Now on board with Nemo Gidley. Look at the sun coming into turn 4. Look ahead to the left. You can see the smoke. Oh, Mimo just gets on the brakes hard to avoid contact. Gets it going ahead, keeps the engine running. Works his way through the smoke screen and keeps going.
So you've got a yellow flag early on here. Bruno Junqueira, one of those affected. He's with Gary.
Bruno, can you tell us what happened from your seat? Did you have any chance to react to it?
No, someone spun. You said that it was Papis, and I tried to avoid the contact with him. I don't know, and I came inside. I came low. I don't know if someone hit me or something, but the guy just spun, cold tires, and just in front of me. It's a shame.
It's been an amazing day. Did you feel like you were ready after a short practice session to be able to go racing at these speeds?
Yeah, my car was really good. Team Tag did a very good job this morning, and with low heavy fuel, we were running really quick. I was really confident. It's a shame that I couldn't get the race.
Thank you, Bruno. Glad you're all right.
Thank you.
All right, but out of the race very early on. Amazing piece of driving by this man, Max Pappas. Backwards down the straightaway, standing on the throttle, trying to get it to slow down as best he could, sliding and keeping it straight across the grass. So Pappas is able to continue on though the car of Junqueira will be loaded onto the wrecker. We'll be back. Well, back live at Rockingham Motor Speedway. The yellow is still on as they get both the car of Bruno Junqueira and Tora Takagi off the course. Takagi apparently got the wall with the front suspension and damaged it, turning the wheels inward, so it's not drivable. We'll look at it one more time. Pretty spectacular slide by Max Pappas.
Max loses it on throttle coming off the last corner. These other accidents as a result of people bobbing and weaving on cold tires. You see Bruno Junqueira up on the right, on the brakes hard, loses control. Watch Max Pappas, keeps it dead straight, keeps the engine running, starts to come off the brakes now, and now watch how close this is right here. So Roberto Moreno locks the brakes up for just an instant, releases and continues. Spectacular.
Patrick Carpentier also was able to jump all over the brakes and had to bring it down through the grass to get out of the way. And he was able to do that without any problems whatsoever and able to keep on.
It looked like Tora backed off there, Townsend Bell into the back of him, having picked up a number of positions on that opening lap. Very, very interesting way to inaugurate this new circuit. Now, once again, on board.
Here is Gidley, and notice the top of his helmet.
The pineapple from Alex Zanardi. Listen to this man get this car straight, keep the engine running, and go back through this. It's because Morris Nunn used to refer to Alex as his little pineapple. He put it on his helmet at his first race win. Came right then, 96 in Portland. It's been on his helmet ever since.
We're on the 6th lap. And part of the game here today, shortened race, 168 laps rather than 210, is the whole fuel situation. And the assumption is everybody, if they work it carefully, will make this thing in 2 stops. And I'm guessing, and this is just a guess, you tell me, we've already had some guys in. Would you consider waiting till the end of this yellow and then fueling? Wouldn't that help you?
You might do that. We've seen the last number of races. The Ford's very, very strong with fuel mileage. The fuel window opened immediately. It's going to make it for a very interesting strategical race.
Sinji, Moreno, Gidley, Wilson, and Pappas all into the pits, all receiving fuel. We'll be back. And the green flag comes out in Rockingham. DeFerrin leads the field down into the first turn. Breck right behind him, then Andretti, and then Leo Castroneves. Ariel Franchitti goes into the corner 5th. Just before the green came out, Max Wilson did a quick spin and won, but kept it under control and kept going. Now here comes Kenny Breck up to move on DeFerrin. He's looking a little further back to see Michael. Michael struggled a little bit, and only at the last minute of the one practice session that they had, not counting the installation check, was able to finally get the setup, and it looks like it's working very well.
I've been looking farther back in the field. Townsend Bell came up from 26th to 19th spot on our first lap. Well, now he and Oriol Servia have been hammering on each other. They've dragged each other up to 16th and 17th. So these two guys at the back understanding that on these restarts, very, very important if you're going to gain ground, because passing here might be very difficult, but that remains to be seen.
There's Michael Elio Castroneves just behind him. Castroneves closing only slightly back at the front. DeFerrin and Kenny Breck. Breck, who has had such incredible success on ovals this year.
Kenny Breck at the 6 oval races has got 4 wins, 1 second. Remember, he was dominant at Michigan earlier before he and his teammate Max Pappas came together just last weekend. The first 1-2 finish in Ray Hall team history with Kenny Breck and Max Pappas.
And remember, too, Kenny Breck comes here with 131 points in the championship lead. 100 of those points were scored on ovals. Now closing on DeFerrin. Same time Castroneves closes on Andretti. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Paul, on Kenny Breck's part for the crew, after the installation laps, there was major concern. They lost some power, and they found an electrical gremlin of some kind that they were chasing. We just checked in with the team to make sure that everything is working properly. They say they believe they've got it cured. They like the way the car's handling right now as he chases Jill DeFerrin in second place.
So keeping an eye on Breck and DeFerrin up at the front. Castroneves still trying to close on Andretti. Franchitti still fifth with the rookie Scott Dixon sitting down in sixth place.
With
1.5, no pressure.
Scott Remke talking to Kenny Breck. And I found it very interesting, even with all the commotion and disruption of schedule over the last few days. Kenny Breck, remember, all these teams did engine changes between the abbreviated practice session this morning and the start of this race. Kenny Breck on the grid, asleep moments before they rolled them out onto the track.
I've been amazed with Kenny Breck's fans.
Fuel position 7.
Swedish fans have been down here, all dressed up in the blue and yellow of Sweden, even the giant wigs that they've been wearing, and they've been pushing him. It's kind of neat to see these drivers as we're on board with Scott Dixon, so close to their homeland where they can get that large fan base. Franchitti, for example, as well. A lot of folks coming down from Scotland and from Edinburgh.
And there are only 6 drivers in this field that have not previously competed in the UK in some form, whether it's Formula Ford, Formula Ford 2000, Formula 3, Formula 3000, or Formula 1. You've got to remember, this is a whole group of severe overachievers. So for many of these guys, they're as close to home as they've been. Brings back a lot of fond memories and previous championship memories for these drivers.
Ride with Scott Dixon. Franchitti is just ahead.
Fortunately, in that shot, you can see the sun now behind some clouds and a little lower behind the grandstands. The opening lap of this race, the drivers were blinded coming out of 3 down into 4. But the other concern, Paul, is how long until the sun goes down and it starts getting too dark to race here?
Well, we're right now coming up on 5 o'clock here in Great Britain. And with 168 laps as a scheduled distance and 149 left to go, that too will enter the list of concerns as the sun drops fairly rapidly now. Put us in shades of memory of Australia when they ran into the dark. The front of the field, De Ferran, Breck, Andretti, Castroneves, Franchitti, Dixon. No change there. Again, we are live as we welcome you to the Rockingham 500K, Corby, England. Race has been shortened in distance from 210 to 168 laps. Right on the start of the race, De Ferran took the lead and has maintained it. But then as they came around on the second lap, Max Pappas slid backwards down the front straightaway at more than 200 miles an hour. He didn't touch a thing, but other guys reacted, and as a result, Tora Takagi and Bruno Junqueira slapped against the inside wall. No injuries, but their cars both out of the race.
We see Gilles De Ferran now working his way through lap traffic. Mimo Gidley, the first one to go down. Kenny Breck right behind as now they set their sights on Max Wilson.
Of course, the traffic last week made all the difference. That's expected here today, too. As with the tremendously high velocities, well over 200 miles an hour. Coming up on the slower cars and trying to pick your way through, anticipating that couple of straightaways ahead, that's the trick.
The traffic itself is the key to passing today because the track does not allow very much passing since these drivers are flat through turns 2, 3, and 4 with just a brief lift into the first corner. If everyone's at the same throttle position, it makes it very difficult to figure out a way by. So they'll use these slower cars just as a basketball player would. Another player on the opposing team as a picker is on the same team in order to try to maintain their momentum, get the driver behind them to lift off. And you can see what a gap now Gilles De Ferran has pulled over Kenny Breck, as Kenny Breck was not unable to get around Max Wilson.
You saw him giving the car closely following you flag at the start-finish line to Max Wilson because he had Breck lined up right behind him. De Ferran still working his way through traffic, and Castroneves still trying to catch Andretti, and now that's beginning to happen as they encounter traffic.
And these drivers will fight very, very hard to keep from going a lap down, because if the yellow comes out, they'll be able to get right back behind at the end of the queue, so they do not want to go a lap down. They'll fight extremely hard, but once they go a lap down, then you'll see these guys start to move over a little more easily. Right now, though, we're watching the battle between these 3 drivers, between Andretti, Castroneves, and Franchitti. De Ferran now almost 3 seconds ahead of Breck because of the traffic.
But at the same time, Franchitti's able to close up on Catherine Evans, who is closing up on Michael Andretti. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Paul and Parker, I'm wondering, we checked with the Firestone engineers at the start of this race, the track temperature 67 degrees. You mentioned that the sun going down, it's already behind the grandstand, and now cloud cover rolling in as well. I'm wondering that with this short practice day and not much rubber on the track, what do you think will happen as the track cools and darkness approaches?
Well, the track is really abrasive, and since they're up to speed, it's no worries for the drivers at the moment. The big problem will be as they come out of their first and second pit stops, a lot of these drivers unable to scrub all of their tires will make for a very difficult few out laps until they get those tires up to temperature.
Big move there as Franchitti, followed by Dixon, able to finally get around Memo Gedley, who is the last car in the line, and the front of the field is now clearly overhauling the back end.
You can see now the racing line starting to be put onto the racetrack, that dark line as they start to put rubber down. It's the first time now that they've had any long runs in traffic of this length with an abbreviated practice time this morning, no running yesterday or the previous day because of rain, and then the water seeping back up through the racetrack.
Back from Gidley to 7th place, Cristiano D'Amata, Paul Tracy just behind him.
And listen to the throttle here, Paul. Pretty interesting. Just a gradual lift, and now listen, flat.
Well, they said they thought they'd get there as soon as it had a little rubber run into the track.
You can hear him downshift. He moved up out of the groove. He thought Cristiano D'Amata might have a look down the inside.
Well, everybody's looking for room now. Tony Kanaan's right in that. Kanaan, who's the fastest in practice.
You can see Paul Tracy was all over the back of D'Amata, lost a little bit of momentum now. The whole trick here is to figure out if the guy's a little bit slower in front of you, exactly where is he slower. You hang back a little bit, use your advantage so that you can use that advantage to try to draft up and past him at the very moment where he is not quite as quick. And that's a very difficult thing to do, especially when you've got someone crawling over the back, crawling all over the back of your gearbox.
Franchitti comes to 4th around Castroneves, while D'Amata still trying to get around Gidley. Back at the front of the field, the leaders still now threading their way through traffic. There's the leader, DeFerrin. He has 32 complete. Kenny Breck sitting in second, Michael Andretti, and Franchitti a moment ago around Elio Castroneves for 4th. Later today at 5:45 Eastern on ESPN2, Virginia visits Woody Dantzler and the Clemson Tigers. And at 7:45, the tough Auburn defense will try and contain James Mungro and the Syracuse Orangemen on ESPN. College football Saturday on ESPN and ESPN2. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Well, only one change since we've left you. Jimmy Vasser was able to get around Christian Fittipaldi, who seems to be having a problem. He's falling a little further backwards. Vasser moves into 11th. At the front of the field, it's Jill DeFerrin, followed by Kenny Breck, and traffic is the key.
This interval between DeFerrin and Breck changes with every lap. We've seen Kenny get right back within striking distance. As soon as he doesn't have traffic between he and DeFerrin, he's right back behind him. And then the interval will grow up to almost 3 seconds. But now a whole line of cars facing these two leaders of the race.
DeFerrin, quick move inside of Michel Jourdain Jr. Now Breck follows. Gary Gerald.
And for Gilles DeFerrin, as he works through that traffic, Paul, the first radio report from the cockpit indicating to the Penske team that the car is going loose. Meanwhile, for the man who pursues Kenny Breck, they're telling him he's got to improve on his fuel mileage. They need him to get 2.5 miles per gallon. And that plays into what Parker was talking about earlier. You have to get nearly 2.4 miles per gallon at this racetrack to conceivably make it a two-stop race with a reduced lap distance. So, in traffic, DeFerrin's loose, Breck trying to save fuel.
Yeah, but still they're going at each other as Breck looked a little bit to the inside of DeFerrin last time around.
And a little earlier when Breck made that move past Jourdain, he slid the car. You can see him go opposite lock all the way out to the wall. I think Breck obviously has a superior car because he can close this gap up right away as soon as the traffic's removed.
You saw the speeds. We posted them there for DeFerrin. Fall off considerably in the past few laps. Now he's about 2/3 of the way in terms of fuel load, 2/3 gone. The car is lightening very quickly now, and with the early yellow, originally they were talking about lap 55, maybe. I assume that they'll go maybe another 7 beyond that.
Lost three.
I think that's a pretty good guess, and this track will change every lap. So a driver's worst nightmare on an oval, the car going loose, the back of the car trying to pass you every time you turn the steering wheel. And at this track, you're turned more than you're going straight. It's almost like driving in a big circle. So Gilles DeFerrin adjusting the anti-roll bars, adjusting his weight jacker, doing everything possible to try to get some load onto the front, off the rear. And here comes Kenny Breck, knowing that he's got to get this mileage. He might just pace himself behind DeFerrin here and wait for this next round of stops or traffic to line up just right so they can take advantage of Gilles DeFerrin with deteriorating handling and make the pass.
Yeah, it's got to drive you crazy, though. You're trying to figure out how to get the fuel mileage, listening to all the settings that Scott Remke has given Kenny Breck, knowing that, well, you could just stay there, but he's not going to do it. Apparently, he clearly understood the problem that DeFerrin was having, could see it from the cockpit, and went right for it. That wasn't a traffic move at all.
No, that was pretty easy. Just got a better run coming off the corner. If the car's loose, you have to drive it a little higher up in the groove because you can't put as much load with the steering wheel. You can't hold the car down to the inside. Kenny Breck could. He could get on the throttle sooner. Just got a better exit, use that momentum to take him going down the inside of the next corner.
Ray Hall watches his car now in the lead. Just ahead of Kenny Breck on the racetrack is Alex Tagliani, who also was involved in that accident last week. Was very sore for a day or two and just wanted to get out of the hospital and get exercising again so he could work the stiffness out.
You'll see the cars running closer together in the corners than you do on other ovals during the course of the year. The aerodynamic package different. For last week in at Lausitz's Ring and also here at Rockingham, they're running a road course rear wing, just the main plane, not the secondary element, with a small gurney flap on it. Super Speedway front wings. Creates more downforce, less turbulence. But you'll still notice that Kenny Breck in traffic will try to place the car right down on the white line, trying to find some clean air to take advantage of the driver in front, get a good exit, draft up behind him, and then try to make the move.
Third place, Dario Franchitti. Michael in pursuit. Franchitti got around Michael. Castroneves fell back to 5th place.
Michael Andretti looking down the inside of Dario Franchitti. These two have been going at each other depending on the traffic situation. You can see Dario pulled right away again. They made these aerodynamic changes because of the fear of the Hanford device creating so much turbulence that the drivers would only be able to get within. Oh, Michel Jourdain Jr.
Jourdain gets in trouble and looks like he, if anything, just lightly brushed, and I don't even think he did that.
Lost the shock cover. You can see Castroneves hard on the brakes. This will definitely bring out the yellow and the first round of pit stops.
Yellow flag flies, second time of the day. Most of the crews are immediately over the wall. So twice today we've seen a car coming off of 4 do a quick spin, get it back under control. Max Pappas first and Michel Jourdain Jr. now. Pits are closed for the moment. The crews are ready when they open.
It's most likely to happen in that corner as the cars go loose. That's the corner where they have to lift, especially coming down into the sun. As they lift, the weight transfers off the back of the car. It starts to get light. Or when the guys are putting the throttle on coming off the corner, which is what happened there. Just as he started to add the throttle, car got backwards, air got underneath the shock cover. Evasive maneuver there by Castroneves, followed by Dixon.
What about that element in the wing that pulled? Did you see that as he came in?
Well, watch it again. Halfway through turn 4, there goes the shock cover.
It was just the shock cover was the only thing. Thought I saw a little wobble at the back of the car just before he lost it, and it wasn't really there.
Paul Tracy taking a very deep breath there. Oh, that was Mikey and Franchitti that went through.
Exactly, and Mikey looks like he got Dario as they went on through.
So here's Dario. Imagine what's going through Dario's mind now. He comes off the corner and says, please go to the inside. Please, please, thank you. Now Castroneves is hard on the brakes for just a moment. He's cleared, then Dixon slides by.
Well, the CART scoring computer showing Franchitti in third ahead of Michael, as he is there in the order as they come across the line, waiting for the pits to become available. 52 laps are complete. Remembering that Shinji Nakano and Roberto Moreno, Memo Gidley, Max Wilson, and Max Pappas have been in the pits once on about the 7th lap of the race. They actually were able to get in and out of the pits.
The pits will open for the lead lap cars first, and then after they've pitted, then the pits will open for the cars that are now down a lap.
We're going to pit this lap. 10-4, pit this lap. We're doing 4 tires, half turn of front wing, guys.
Seems like a few cars out there turn 4, it seems like.
Moving very slowly down the pits, Christian Fittipaldi entering the pits obviously under trouble as the crew runs to get him.
And this is earlier than they'd want. They have to go 56 laps to make it a 2-stop race. Coming in on the 53rd lap now.
Adjust your wing jacker.
So we'll be watching the front of the field for you. Kenny Breck is
Come on down.
all the
Just
way
stay
down
opening.
before he starts to turn in. And let's go to Gary.
Oh, we're at the pit exit in the DeFerrin Penske
Reset
pit.
fuel.
The pit bends to the left and is slightly downhill as the Penske team goes to work. You heard that they would make a wing change for Kenny Breck. We'll see a wing change for DeFerrin as well. There it is. We'll see who beats who out of the pits. Here comes Breck. There goes DeFerrin. Breck advantage. Holds the lead.
So Kenny Breck comes out as the leader of the race again. Thus far, 45 laps in the lead for Gilles DeFerrin. And 8 laps in the lead for Kenny Breck. For DeFerrin, that's got to be refreshing, though, to finally find himself back at the front of the order after a very long dry spell. We're back live. The Rockingham 500K, Corby, England, Rockingham Motor Speedway, still under caution. Kenny Breck scored as the leader, followed by DeFerrin. But the Newman-Haas team, they had a whale of a stop, and Michael Andretti for Team Green also had a spectacular stop. Here's the view as he made that stop. Doing in the pits what couldn't be done on the race course. He gets around his teammate Dario Franchitti on the stop.
John Kamiansky's helmet. You can see how quick that change was. And as you said, he got ahead of Dario. D'Amata, as you said, from 7th to 3rd. Also, Mo Nunn's team brought Tony Kanaan in 9th, put him out in 6th. Great stop.
Gary Gerald, looks like Christian Fittipaldi is out.
Yeah, he's out on the near side of the wall. Christian, what was the problem?
A drive shaft went. I lost gear. I didn't have any drive at all. And then I just coasted back into the pits.
How difficult has this day been, considering your first time under green conditions on this track and ending up racing on the same day?
The day hasn't been that difficult. I think my season, especially the last couple of races, has been really difficult. As far as having limited amount of green time, it's the same for everyone. The car was running very good in the race.
Were you comfortable? Were you comfortable?
Yeah, no. I was pretty comfortable. It was just a matter of time and waiting game a little bit. We had to wait a little bit, save some fuel, but I was happy with everything.
Thank you.
Christian's year will get better, you can be assured of that. Here is the pit summary. A couple of major moves forward, and 2 of them way backward. Dixon, Castroneves both losing substantial position. D'Amata, as Parker suggested, picking up.
And that's where the guys in the pits, as always, are so important in everything. We also mentioned Tony Kanaan. Also, we saw the big loss, Castro Neves, coming in that time in 5th, dropping back to 9th place. Those boys in the pits, boy, they can make or break your whole day.
Scott Dixon was in the fight, now has fallen back to 13th. Anticipating the green flag. Kenny Breck picks up the throttle. Closest time together on the track, if you're going to make a move, now would be the time Franchitti's going to try it on Michael. High and wide off of 1. Side by side going into 2. Michael gets ahead of him. Franchitti loses the momentum, has to get out of it.
Michael didn't let the car all the way up. He left Dario some clean air, which was a very gentlemanly thing to do, but still, Dario had to back out of the throttle, being high off the groove there, and lost some time to Michael.
And from once they enter turn 1, it's really a constant turn all the way until they get around to 4. Even there, despite the fact there are 4 different distinct turns here, to the race car, once they turn into 1, it's just constant turn.
They straighten the wheel just briefly between 1 and 2, then it's a long arc through 2, 3, just a very brief straightening of the wheel to right back into 4. Every one of these corners, 4 Gs or more.
You can see as the sun continues to set, reflections into our cameras off the track. Fortunately, they see the sun only going into turn 4, and we'll get an idea here of Gidley's car, what that looks like for him. Remember, Gidley well back in the field and being overhauled by the front regularly now. Still a bit of a glare.
And this is so hard because once you slow down and you start allowing people by on the inside, it's so difficult to get back in the swing of things, get back in the groove, literally and figuratively. Then once you're slow, you just stay slow. And for some reason, the car will run to the end of the race when it's this bad. It never will break.
Back to the front of the field. Breck now pulling out 1.7 seconds. Over second place to Ferrand.
Kenny likes driving a neutral car. You could see in that shot, the car very neutrally balanced coming off the corner, almost loose. Kenny, very reminiscent of Juan Montoya, doesn't mind driving the car that way.
Fuel position 5.
Scott Remke just managing the fuel for Kenny Breck from the pit lane.
Cristiano Damana now closes up on Gil de Ferrand. His pit crew gave him a tremendous advantage on the stop. Now he's going to try to take further advantage.
They've struggled recently, but with that stop getting up into the top 3 now, Cristiano looks like the car's working quite well. Some small changes. When the season isn't going as you want, you get to a brand new facility and you don't have a lot of track time, sometimes that's a big advantage because it doesn't allow some of the other teams to get the advantage on you that they might have during the course of a normal weekend. For someone like Cristiano Damata, brings a higher percentage of the driver into the equation. If the car's even half decent, it allows them to run very, very strong.
And of course, when we get certain angles on Cristiano Damata, you can see the LED advertising in the center of his wheels, which was no end of amazement for some of the sports writers here in the United Kingdom. Thought it was unbelievable that they'd found yet another space on the race car that they could put some advertising. And I actually read several columns about that. Here is Scott Dixon. Well back, now 13th. Gary, any idea what the problem was on the stop and why he's back here?
Yeah, Paul, we just checked with the team, and they said the fueler had a tough time engaging and getting the nozzle into the side of the tank. For whatever reason, that delay cost them 7 positions on that pit stop, 6th to 13th.
Well, it's understandable. Back at Mid-Ohio, Pat Patrick guys allowed me to pick up one of the probes. I didn't have it full of fuel, but it's over 50 pounds. It has to precisely fit into the fuel buckeye, and under the pressure of a stop, it's very, very easy to miss that alignment. And if you take a couple of stabs at it and lose a second or 2, that's all it takes to lose a number of positions.
And you have to bring it completely back out if you just nick anything, it trips it right away.
I know of one fueler that during practice actually hit a driver in the side of the head. He missed it by so much. But it's not easy to manhandle the hose filled full of fuel and that enormous quick fuel device.
Max Wilson comes into the pits. Remember, he was part of that group that stopped on lap 7, and he carries to lap 68.
You mentioned how people were amazed at the LED lights in the wheels. Also for these fans, they've never seen cars this fast at this sustained a speed. So they're talking new track records for all-time quick laps in the UK. They've never smelled methanol, recently anyway. And for the fans that I spoke with the last 2 days, even though there was very, very little on-track activity except a few laps behind the pace car yesterday, they couldn't believe the access to the drivers, the cars, the paddock, the pits, something they've never seen before in a Formula One race. They said the price of admission just for that alone was well worth it.
Tony Kanaan, who with a good stop has moved to 6th. Remember, he had a great run last week. So did his teammate Alex Zanardi. And again, the best wishes of everyone here goes out to Alex. His legs amputated in that accident last week, but his spirits, once he regained consciousness, have been unbelievable and very Zanardi-like. He has been complaining to the nurses. He wants to see the race on television. He wants to call the track. And then that incredible statement when told, more of as a reaffirmation of what he probably fully realized as he awakened. He told the doctors, I've got my wife, I've got my son, I've got my life, I don't need anything else.
And he's got more than that. He's got some great friends in Jimmy Vasser and Tony Kanaan that will always be there for him. They were there at the hospital the whole time. You couldn't ask for any better of a support network.
Actually, a very good point as we watch Kenny Breck still working his way through traffic. Jimmy Vasser, very, very close with Alex Zanardi, was at the hospital in Berlin and was visibly shaken. I felt very badly for Jimmy as well because it got to him, it hurt him. So Kenny Breck starts on the pole, gives the lead up to DeFerrin. Now takes it back. DeFerrin still in pursuit. DeMata in third. The NHRA is back in action this week from Memphis, Tennessee. It's the AutoZone Nationals presented by Pennzoil. Coverage begins with qualifying today at 2 Eastern on ESPN2. Eliminations tomorrow at 2 Eastern, and then the finals 8:30 Eastern on ESPN2. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Well, nothing has changed since we left you. The glare of the sun, obviously, not a welcome sight for any of the drivers. Kenny Breck is still in front. He has now led 32 laps of the race, but the early laps were led by Gilles DeFerrin. He led for 45 in a race that really requires figuring out how to get past the slower cars as you approach them at the front of the field. Paul Page, Parker Johnstone, Gary Gerald, live from Rockingham Motor Speedway. The first time that the Champ cars have been in England, and the last time they were here under the USAC banner in 1978. Once at Silverstone, once at Brands Hatch. Races won by A.J. Foyt and Rick Mears. Jan Beekes was scheduled to be with us on this romp through Europe, but of course, when the airport shut down a week ago, that terrible tragedy at both the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, Jan and much of our crew and a good portion of the CART team couldn't make it out. So Jan, we do wish you were here with us. One of the guys watching from the sidelines with a number of Formula One drivers is the latest winner in Formula One, Juan Montoya. Now Juan Pablo Montoya, and he's with Gary Gerald.
Juan, you stand here in the target pit with old friends watching this race. What kind of memories does this evoke for you now? What do you think about?
I think it's brilliant. I'm so happy to be here. I got great friends here, and it's great racing. It's really good to be here.
Tell us about what it felt like last week at Monza to get your first Formula One victory.
Well, it was big. I worked really hard for it all year long, and finally came. Hopefully it's a step for something bigger. So we're gonna just try to keep working as hard as I can.
And now you're on to Indianapolis for a race next week there. What will it be like going back to Indy where you had won in the Champ cars?
I think it'd be good, and after, it's the next race after my first win in Formula One, so it'd be, quite emotional race for me.
We look forward to it. You got the little pineapple down here remembering Alex Zanardi. I know you wish him well as well.
Yeah, you know, it's very bad what happened to him, and, you know, if he's seeing this, hopefully it gets better.
Nice to see you.
Right,
good luck.
That was really nice to see Juan and his dad as they just kind of came strolling through the paddock. And, of course, as soon as the fans figured out he was here, they started crowding around him. One of the nice things of this weekend has been we've had fan after fan from here in the UK say it's amazing how close we're able to get to the cars, talk to the drivers. They had a great autograph session here despite the bad weather on Thursday. There were a lot of fans here. They had a great time.
Unparalleled accessibility for them. Juan Montoya just celebrated a birthday. Of course, Cristiano D'Amata had a birthday this week as well. We've also seen David Coulthard in the pit lane and a few other Formula One drivers as well.
Plus 1.5.
You listen to Scott Remke talking to the leader Kenny Breck while we watch Adrian Fernandez and Paul Tracy. Fernandez is currently 7th. Average speed, despite the cautions, is up at 154.8 miles an hour. Of course, as Parker said, every lap a track record here. First time on this circuit. And by the way, it's really very well done. The grandstands here have terrific sight lines. All of the facilities are convenient and easy. The garage area in the paddock, good for the teams. They really did a nice job in preparation for this event. Tracy just nibbling away at the back of Fernandez. Again, traffic will be the key.
Very difficult to pass in a place where you're full throttle through 3 of the 4 corners. How do you gain an advantage on someone? How do you use a speed differential in order to pass them? Well, that all comes down to traffic.
I'll show you the diagram of this track again. It's very flat. It's 7 degrees, the banking going into the first turn.
3.5 degrees down the straightaways, track 60 feet in width. It looks like sort of a compressed square, but actually 2 of the corners, turns 2 and 3, drive as one continuous corner. 1 long arc out of 1 with just a very short straightaway between 1 and 2, very similarly between 3 and 4. And Adrian Fernandez.
Adrian Fernandez, lap 90.
We're going to give you fuel, tires, and up 2 on the front wings.
Now, Tom Anderson working with Adrian Fernandez. You want to explain this one?
Well, that means he got about 2.05 miles per gallon since that last stop caused by the yellow. They've got to go 56 laps to make it 2 stops. That's at 2.35 miles per gallon. Much earlier than we thought. He'll have to come in again. Of course, a lot of these guys, I think, Paul, they're going to have to really stretch in order to try to make it in 1 more stop.
When you think back to the first stop, which you gained that tremendous advantage. Some of the technique now is a short fill. We didn't actually see that stop, but I wouldn't think that
well, they could
gain anything.
Going that many laps, 48 laps, puts them in a reasonable fuel window at 2.05. But if they were just hoping for another yellow during that run, and just left out the last little bit to gain a second or 2 in the pit lane, that's not a bad strategy. But we know the guys at Team Rahal, as we saw last week with Kenny Breck and Max Pappas. You can hear Scott Remke telling Breck, use the button as you need it. So they're not worried about fuel economy right now. That's the candy button. It goes to full rich, full advance on the timing. It uses the most amount of fuel. It can change the horsepower by 150 to 200 horsepower depending on how much they have it leaned out. So obviously this team just keeping their foot down, full power, looking for 2 more stops.
Well, Breck was able to get through traffic, but DeFerrin came through easily as well. Breck, Ford still in front. Well, as you can see, the yellow came out. It came out for Adrian Fernandez, who had a very big blow-up on the engine. And we're going to show that to you again. Gary Gerald was on his way down to check on the pit stop at the time. There's Fernandez down low. It was extraordinarily loud. Look at all the oil coming out. So you know the bottom end is gone. Gary Gerald, what's the story? A couple of hot parts bouncing behind the car too.
Yeah, I asked them, the team here, if in fact the early pit stop had anything to do with an indication of a motor problem, and they said no, it was part of race strategy. They did short fill him on the earlier stop, so he needed the necessary fuel. Got it, got back out. That's when the engine let go.
And that's one of the few that I've ever been able to hear in the booth. It made such a big boom, it rocked the windows up here. So that was a good one.
So what is the strategy now? The crews are all laid out. You assume most of the field, if not all, will come in. We're at the 96th lap. We're past the halfway point. And this may be a fairly lengthy yellow, just because of all the oil between turns 1 and 2. There's a very long line of oil dry laid down.
One more half turn of front wing.
So those are the changes for Kenny Breck. And there's the cleanup going on.
But if
a doctor pushing a broom. Dr. Terry Trammell out there sweeping the track. Here's the full field summary for you.
One of the world's leading orthopedic surgeons out pushing the kitty litter.
Oh, that's a photograph I'm keeping.
We'll see if we have the dramatic changes we had with some of the changes on the last pit stop as far as position. But these guys, if they come into the next few laps, they'll still have 68 laps to go. There's no way they can do that. They'll have to be forced into a position of doing a splash and go before the checker unless another yellow comes out.
The field now assembled behind the pace car, still a little loosely. Watch for the pits to open. Again, most of the crews are ready for service on their machines. In fact, I'm looking up and down the line for any exceptions. And the one thing you don't see, though, they have stuff up on the wall. The Pac West team has not come over the wall ready to go to work. That's Scott Dixon's team, of course. He's in 12th. His teammate, Mauricio Gulgerman, is back in 19th.
We can see the Penske teams, Team Green, Team Rahal players, Newman Haas all the way down, ready to go.
Michel Jourdain Jr.'s team, while on the wall, is not yet ready to come over. Remember, he had that spin, brought out the last yellow, and so he went in the pits at that time, and it's not logical that he would want to come in at this point either. Kenny Breck, look at him on ovals. We mentioned it earlier. 100 of his 131 points earned on ovals. 525 laps led. Of course, a lot of that owing to his background the last several years in the Indy Racing League and doing nothing but oval racing. But he has been a tremendously fast guy anyway. Crew members waiting for Kenny's arrival here. They brought them around one more time, despite the fact that the field was mostly assembled, waiting for the pits to open. And now, alerting us and the teams from CART Race Control that because of fading light, darkness, they are now reducing this race to 140 laps.
So I'd like to go back and restate my earlier position on fuel strategy.
Well, I imagine it won't just be you. I mean, a lot of guys down there.
There is none. You come in, you put fuel in the car, and you race till the checkered flag. That takes care of any thoughts of a splash and go, a second pit stop. This will now be a sprint to the end. And some of these guys, we saw those very aggressive moves at the beginning of the race and then on the subsequent restart by Servia, Townsend Bell, some of the other guys. They'll know that for a lot of them, this last restart, if we go green to the end, will be their final opportunity to make some big moves. It'll have to happen in the pit lane, it'll happen on this restart, and then with any traffic they might encounter, as we see now that the pit board is coming up and the pits will open.
Yeah, the pit's being signaled open. There it is. They just put up that board. That'll bring everybody in, and these stops become that much more important because of the shortening of the race. From 210 to 168, now down to 140.
And this will be a time stop. They will not have to top the tanks in order to make it to the end. So it'll be whoever's the most clever figure out exactly how much fuel is absolutely necessary to minimize the length of this pit stop.
Pits are going to be open down here. Nice.
Well, imagine the pressure, though, on the calculation, because a few moments ago you were thinking when we stop this car, it's going to be for a full load of fuel. Now you suddenly have to recalculate and figure what the time spot is going to be. So here they come. Look at them bunch up, all under the pit speed limit.
Here we are.
Let's go to Gary Gerald.
We wait with the team. Rico Nault waves from the right front. The fueler in position to make his move. Here's Brett on target. The stick is there waiting to bang him in the back. They had to engage a second time on the fuel. Tire change now completed. The rear car off the jacks, revs up, but now at 11.5 seconds as he's gone.
Well, he just barely got ahead of the whole pack as they came out, but he didn't make it out ahead of DeFerrin. DeFerrin rolled, probably 2 seconds before Kenny Brack, and so DeFerrin takes the lead back.
And that's the problem with the fuel nozzle. The other thing that was interesting on the way in, you can see Kenny kept everyone nice and slow behind him, and just before they got to the beginning of the speed limit, he actually accelerated, then jammed right back on the brakes and got about a 2-car length lead on DeFerrin, but it's gone now.
On our live coverage here at Rockingham Motor Speedway, DeFerrin is back in front.
Today's ESPN Speed World coverage of the CART Rockingham 500K is brought to you by 10-10-220. Dial it, and all calls up to 20 minutes are only 99 cents.
And don't forget as well that RPM today and tonight will have complete coverage of this race, the NHRA in Memphis, and NASCAR in Dover. For more, log on to rpm.espn.com. On the side of Scott Dixon's car, you're looking at the ribbon that all of the teams are wearing here in memory of September 11th. We want to show you as they were coming out of the pits. The question here about Michael Andretti and Helio Castroneves getting together. More Michael and D'Amata. Gary Gerald, what did they think down there?
Well, Michael Andretti's team said that they believe there was contact. Michael on the radio said he's okay. We checked with Tim Cindric, who's on the radio with Castroneves, and he said Helio has said nothing about any possible contact. The Penske team unaware if there was contact. Bottom line seems to be both cars operating okay, but still under yellow, awaiting green.
Oh, we saw some serious brake checking out there between Kanaan and Tracy. Castroneves, the big winner on that pit stop, came in 8th, went out in 3rd. A couple of different positions got shuffled. Kanaan 7th, moved up to 6th. With the Mo Nunn Racing team, you can see it there. But Castroneves, the big winner. The question I had, it looked like Michael Andretti had a nose on him coming out of the pit lane. Castroneves slid back up the side, D'Amata on the outside. I'm very curious as how that blend procedure worked as they exited the pits.
The blend line is very close in to the last pit, probably only about 60 yards down and delineated by some blue and white cones.
We're seeing some sticker tires here in a couple of these guys. Castroneves, D'Amata, these tires were not scrubbed. They just didn't have the time.
Green.
DeFerrin tries to defend his position going into 1. Holds Breck off.
Well, watch Kenny, though. He's on the racing line. Look how well his car's working. You'll see it wash up high in the wake of DeFerrin there. Look how much time he had to lose backing out of the throttle as he crossed the wake. Give Kenny another couple corners, he'll be right back up behind DeFerrin.
DeFerrin, Breck, Castroneves, D'Amata, Andretti, and Tony Kanaan. That's your top 6.
Fuel position 10.
I do want to try to explain that the laps and what actually is a very late starting race, because they had no opportunity on the first 2 days here to run at all between rain and the weepers in the track. They had a practice this morning of 2 hours, then they changed engines immediately, had a quick installation check, and then went racing. But in doing that, it brought the start to quite late in the day. It was originally scheduled 2 hours earlier than they actually started. The one advantage in all of that is that it gave us live coverage. Scott Dixon on the pit road.
Which one of those clowns hit you, do you know?
Well, now they're talking about somebody getting into Dixon.
But after days of inactivity, watching these teams change engines, and normally when we see a last-minute engine change, it affects a team, maybe two, but to see every competitor changing engines, gearboxes apart, as they're trying to guess the proper race gears, it was just an amazing event to watch. All of the cars back on the grid on time, then held up, a delay in fueling, but now running very strong. The Penske cars sandwiching Kenny Breck. And I thought Kenny by this time would be right back up behind DeFerrin, but not the case. He's close, and they've pulled a gap on Castroneves now, just over 2 seconds.
Yeah, but what's the thinking in that? Is Kenny maybe set a mapping position that'll just keep him there, serving for 30 laps from now?
I don't know if it's a matter of just trying to take care of the tires, not really a fuel issue, waiting for lap traffic to then make a move, letting DeFerrin set the pace. Look, the sun's right back in their face again. Just that brief instant heading down into turn 4.
Plus point 8, good job.
17 cars run on the lead lap with Joe DeFerrin. Brian Herta is the last car on the lead lap. Now both Breck and DeFerrin have each led 55 laps as they're in pursuit of that single point for leading the most laps. And Breck will pick it up next time around. Scott Dixon out of the car, Gary?
Yeah, Scott, tell us what happened, and did something hit you or your car?
Yeah, well, those two idiots behind me, Moreno and Servia, were trying to fight over position. And I don't know, they obviously didn't see everybody else slowing down and just ran right into the rear of me. And I think I bent, something on the left rear.
All right, thank you. Sorry, it's a short day. Boy, he'd been moving up in the points too, guys.
Yeah, he moved into 5th in the points coming in here. Just behind Elio Castroneves. He's been somewhat of an amazing rookie this year, but pretty strong language from the New Zealander.
21 years old, but definitely knows what's right and what's wrong in a race car. Very mature, very fast. As we watch this battle at the front, I was just thinking, Paul, here you are, the defending series champion, Gilles DeFerrin, having not won a race this year. Of course, I think of DeFerrin on ovals, and I can't help but think about Nazareth and that historic Penske win last year. But yet, here he is, having taken the lead of the championship as we went to Germany, relinquished it to get back to Kenny Breck after the results last weekend, but yet looking for that win. Think about past champions that have gone a season without winning a race and won a championship. That's not the way you want to win it. You want to win it by dominating.
So DeFerrin now leading the most laps of the race with 59. We'll be back with more. Welcome back live, Rockingham Motor Speedway, Corby, England. Paul Page, Parker Johnstone, Gary Gerald. Wishing that Jan Beekes was here with us. I know he'd enjoy this. Did a lot of his early racing around this area and was pretty excited about the possibility of showing us where he had his apartment. Not all that far from here. And of course, this is a center of a lot of the racing industry. Cosworth, Reynard, Lola, all very close by and well represented here in the crowd. No changes since we left you. DeFerrin is still the leader, followed by Breck. Then Castroneves, Cristiano D'Amata, and Michael Andretti. The real question in my mind is we saw how easily it appeared that Kenny Breck could roll up on the back of DeFerrin when they came back to green. But now he's just kind of parked back there about 200 yards behind.
Well, this is the first time that I can remember in a very long time where fuel concern didn't make any difference to get to the end. And I'm sort of wondering if the chassis are equal now. In the top 6, we have 4 Hondas, 1 Ford, and 1 Toyota. So given full power considerations, who's the top dog?
Well, we sent Gary Gerald on the run down to the Ray Hall Letterman pits. Gary, can you discern what they're doing?
Quick word with team manager Scott Remke. He said, we're fine, we're just holding. And he said, we're waiting for the opportunity in traffic. We'll get him in traffic, I think were his exact words.
That's the thing that I was thinking about a little earlier. Is maybe Kenny's just trying to keep the tires underneath him, waiting for what we saw earlier, but now we do have traffic. Remember how quick Kenny was coming through traffic before? Earlier in the year, some of the short oval races like Nazareth, he was the only guy that could work his way through the field no matter what the conditions were. So I'm surprised he's not a little farther up because we've only got 17 laps to go.
Another rookie in his second race for Pat Patrick. Townsend Bell started last. There he is, the car on the right of your screen, and now runs in 13th place.
He had an amazing opening lap. About a half a dozen cars before they had even gotten to the fourth corner. He said this morning, I was talking to him right after that abbreviated practice, and I said, well, what do you think? He goes, let's see, my second race, I didn't get to run on Thursday or Friday, just like anyone else, and then our guys cut me short, so I only got an hour because they were worried about the motor change. Track time? Guess I don't need any.
And that is a battle for position just ahead of Bell. Bell is in it, trying to close on Pappas and Carpentier. Three-way battle for 11. See how Townsend Bell just steadily worked his way forward. 125 laps complete. DeFerrin past Gidley once again. Gidley goes wide, gives the room to Kenny Breck.
I don't know what the reasons are in the pits, but with 15 laps to go and these laps turning at 26 seconds, I wouldn't want to be any farther back than Breck is right now behind DeFerrin. DeFerrin very much, of course, like all drivers, wants to win the championship, but he wants to win as many races as possible. That's why he makes the big bucks. Drivers don't want to go home with a secure position. They want to prove that they're the best on any given day. DeFerrin's not going to make this easy, but Breck better get up there a little closer.
You saw Breck quicker last time around, and he inched up on DeFerrin, but then fell backwards, all within the same lap.
Well, when he had to pinch off the exit there going underneath Gidley, he lost quite a bit of time. They're now 3.3 seconds ahead of Castroneves, who's then 5 seconds ahead of D'Amata, Andretti and Kanaan and the rest. So really, it's a battle of these two. The Penske chassis working extremely well. A lot of the spectators this weekend saying, why is that car so different than the others? And it is an amazing evolution from the standard Renard chassis to this Penske refinement in all areas.
We'll give you the speeds at the line as they come here. Intervals back. Imagine the guys from Reynard, again, also not far from here, came over, took a look at the car and said, that's not a Reynard.
Not at all. I was talking to Rick Mears back in Mid-Ohio, and I said, Rick, it's changed so much. What's left? And he said, not much, really.
It's a Reynard on a diet.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot thinner.
And the attention to detail, the fit and finish of those cars is just immaculate. The Penske lads just have turned out such a beautiful car.
You got a glimpse there of Patrick Carpentier, currently 13th. They're expecting him to make a stop here shortly.
There, you can
back
see
there, he turned onto the pit road right there. There's Tagliani.
Well, this interval isn't changing much in clear traffic or without traffic.
I would think Breck is getting way too close to the finish to be sitting that far back.
I think DeFerrin's got a great car underneath him. I think he's in the groove. Unless he really gets boxed in, Kenny better do something pretty spectacular very, very soon.
Closing on traffic just ahead. The intervals for Kenny Breck behind the leader DeFerrin.
And these two pushing very, very hard. The only two cars in the 25-second bracket now pulling out 5 seconds over Castroneves and the rest.
8 to go. Keep him honest in traffic. Use your head.
So Kenny pushing Gilles maintaining the interval of just over a half a second. So no matter how hard Kenny pushes, Gilles responds.
They're coming up on Roberto Moreno, who is trying to catch his teammate Townsend Bell.
DeFerrin and Breck now a second and a half to almost 2 seconds faster than anybody else in the field.
Lost 6.
Brecklin in some of the fastest laps of his race right now. You just heard the fuel order go out, so I assume that is for full rich and go with 7 to go.
Team's telling the other drivers on the radio the leaders are coming up behind them.
+1.
You can see, we saw earlier, Brian Herta, Roberto Moreno, all these drivers now moving over.
Both of them cleanly passed Moreno, but now they're coming up on a guy in his second race. So they've got to be a lot more careful here.
Well, second Champ Car race, Townsend Bell, though, with a lot of experience, dominated the Indy Lights Championship to date this year. And it depends how focused Townsend Bell is forwards as opposed to what's happening behind him. But I'm sure Ed Nethman, his engineer at Patrick Racing, Jim McGee, are telling him that the leaders are coming up behind. We'll see if they make this easy or not, because he is racing for position right at this moment with Max Pappas and Oriol Servia.
And not accustomed to having a car come up and lap him.
Well, he told me the other day very nonchalantly there wasn't a lot of difference between an Indy Lights car and a Champ car. And I said, oh, 40, 50 miles an hour, twice the horsepower. Not too big of a difference.
That attitude may change. DeFerrin comes to the inside of Bell. Whoa, very close in. He gets past him. Breck gets caught behind Bell. Now he looks for room.
And he gives him lots of racing room.
Well, for Kenny Breck, something's going to happen very quickly here.
Well, it may happen in the shape of Max Pappas and Oriol Servia just in front of him. Is now, you know, Max Pappas fighting for position for Servia is not going to make this easy for DeFerrin.
DeFerrin getting caught there. Here comes Kenny Breck. DeFerrin comes down the inside. Breck moves to the outside. Breck takes the lead with 2 to go.
You're clear. Now let's go.
And that's the race right there. The timing had to be perfect. It was. Kenny Breck, the dominant force on ovals this year. Team Rahal looking to repeat, shutting out Gilles DeFerrin, the series champion, from his first win. But DeFerrin now coming back with one lap to go.
Hold him off.
DeFerrin closes and looks. No real traffic to help. DeFerrin's right there, doing everything he can. DeFerrin goes high.
He's looking outside.
And DeFerrin takes him. DeFerrin takes him on the final corner, final lap. And Gilles DeFerrin wins his first race of the year.
What a brilliant move. He had a tremendous amount of speed on Kenny Breck, drove it down to the inside, right to the grass.
Good move.
That was spectacular.
Oh, man, I'll tell you. Breck and his guys are probably saying, whoa, what happened there?
Yeah, to do that to Kenny Breck, that was unbelievable. The 2 fastest race laps happening right at the very end with Kenny Breck and Gilles DeFerrin. Brilliant move by Gilles DeFerrin.
Gary Gerald, what's the mood in the pits now?
Absolute jubilation. Here's Roger Penske. Roger, what a shootout in the last couple of laps. How concerned were you when Gilles lost the lead with only 2 to go?
Well, I knew when we came up on traffic, at the speeds they were traveling, you had to be careful. I really don't know what happened there at the end. I couldn't see it, but he drove a great race. Our pit stop was the thing that got us in the lead, and that's great credit to our guys.
What kind of a day has it been when you come into a new venue and you come up with a situation where you get your first green flag practice, and then you come in here and you end up having to race the same day and win it?
Well, I think that I've really been thinking about the United States and the trouble we've had there, and to come over here, and obviously the race is certainly a question, but to be able to come here and track promoted everything he could to make us run and to win this race. This is for all the people back in the States that are going through some troubling times, but we're strong. The president said this, and we got a strong race team too, and we're behind him.
Thank you, Roger. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Not bad, Paul, for a team that hadn't led a lap on an oval all year.
Well, 28 races since DeFerrin last won a race. 11th different winner this year. Here's when Kenny Breck moved on DeFerrin.
Now check this out. Breck takes the corner. DeFerrin doesn't lift, comes up behind him, gets a good draft here.
Then on the last lap,
watch this. He just keeps pinching him down. He says, I'm taking it. Sorry.
At the same time, Kenny didn't lift at all.
Kenny made the move in traffic. DeFerrin just made the move.
That is one happy team, Matt, the rest of the crew.
That's determination. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And a happy Jill DeFerrin, 11th different winner this year. 6th career win. There's Kenny Breck.
Hell of a go, Kenny.
Yeah, that was good. That was very good.
Nice pass, bro. You got some balls there, brother.
Yep.
We'll show you the unofficial results now, with DeFerrin, of course, taking the win and leading the most laps. That point for leading the most laps, very important. None for the pool because it was determined by points order. Catherine Nevis comes in 3rd. Cristiano D'Amato with that great stop up to 4th. Then Andretti, Tracy Vassar, and the rest of the field. Townsend Bell, the rookie, finishes up in 10th place.
An amazing closing laps there. Breck taking the advantage in traffic. DeFerrin with a superior car and superior will in that particular circumstance doesn't lift and just drives the car right through the opening that was left.
Well, we'll take a look, too, at the point standings with Kenny Breck still in front, but DeFerrin remaining in 2nd and inching closer. He started the race 11 behind Breck.
And once again, as we've had every race this year, a change in the top 10 order. Castro Neves moving up, swapping places with Michael Andretti. Cristiano D'Amato moving from 8th up into 5th place. And as you look further down, the order continuing to scramble. It does this after every race. The most competitive top 10 championship battle the series has ever had.
Yeah, actually, Scott Dixon, the biggest loser and all that, he was 5th place in the standings coming in. He's going to leave here in 7th place. Well, we'll see what the British fans think of that one now, because they saw a great finish here. Gary?
Well, here's Gilles DeFerrin. Gilles, let's go over those last couple of laps because it doesn't get much more exciting. What did you think when Kenny got by you there in traffic?
Wow, you know, I tried to hold him back. I got stuck. I thought I was getting by Max on the turn 4 there. They shut the door, and I thought, oh, no. So I started to understeer, and I really had a bad exit. So Kenny just blew by me. And I'm right, this is not finished yet. So I gotta stay right in his toe. So come the last lap, he had the same problem. He was stuck in traffic. So I was able to, you know, he backed off going into 2, I backed off going into 2. I said, right, here we go. You know, so I nailed it a little bit before him and had a little run. So that was it. And then going into the last turn, I said, I was, you know, quarter of a car ahead of him, and I had the line. So it's all right, here we go, baby.
Now, if memory serves correctly, your only other oval win was the Penske team's 100th on the mile oval at Nazareth. You hadn't led a lap on an oval this year. What's it feel like to not only lead a lap, but to win this race and get the extra point for leading most laps?
I tell you, it was a great weekend for us. I mean, obviously we were a bit lost in Germany. We thought a lot about it, made a few changes for this weekend. The car was hooked up ever since I got in it this morning. It was great. The car was really handling well. First stint, I got a little bit loose. That's why Kenny got by, and then Roger made a brilliant call there on the last pit stop and got me ahead. And from there, I knew I had a fast car. So it was the way traffic and everything went.
And I think it's only 6 points separating you now and that man in front of you, Kenny Breck. That's good news for you.
I tell you, I got to give a lot of credit to Kenny. You know, he drove really well. It was tough, hard racing, but there was nothing dirty going on out there.
Enjoy the celebration.
Thank you.
I think it'll be a dandy.
Well, and there has to be a tremendous sense of relief as well, because the tension among not just the Penske team, but all of these teams, having come to the United States before the terrorist attack, not being able to go home, having to run these races, I think there's going to be a lot of relief, because everyone said this morning, I just want to go home. We'll be back.
The CART FedEx Championship Series races in 7 countries throughout its 20-race season. Earlier this year, CART held races in Mexico, Japan, Canada, Germany, and the United States. CART visits England this week and will travel to Australia in a few weeks. Along with CART, FedEx is a global company serving 211 countries and shipping over 6 million pounds of freight daily. In addition to shipping packages, the teams use FedEx to transport its cars and equipment overseas. CART and FedEx are working together to make a worldwide racing series possible.
Back live, Rockingham Motor Speedway just saw a tremendous finish. Jill DeFerrin edging out Kenny Breck on the final lap. So how did it look from Kenny Breck's perspective? Here's Gary Gerald.
Well, Kenny is down here now, moved to the elevation of the victory podium for that second spot. How tough is this to swallow? Because it looked like for a moment you had win number 5 in your pocket.
Yeah, it was close. It's very disappointing, but DeFerrin was strong and there was nothing we could do about him. I tried everything, but it slipped out. He slipped away with it.
How tough was it to be patient and try to find the right moment in traffic when you could pounce and grab the lead?
Yeah, it was all a timing game because it was extremely hard to pass and, just timing everything. And, he made a little mistake there and I got by. And in the end, he just was a little stronger than me. But Shell 4 ran good, but we didn't quite have what it took this time.
When he got the lead back, it looked like there may have only been an inch or so between your cars. How close was it to contact?
Yeah, it was close. I was down on the apron going into the corner to avoid contact. So it was close, but last corner, that's going to be tight, so it's no problem.
Still in the championship points lead after an incredible day where you've driven a track for a very first time. Now you've raced here. Was this a tough day for you, Kenny?
Yeah, it was all right. It's, it's good. We're very happy. Team Rail did a fantastic job, and we'll go home with the points we collected, and we'll go to the next one. And second is better than third.
See you on the streets of Houston.
Thank you.
So Kenny Breck finishes the second and maintains the point lead. He came into this race as the leader in points with DeFerrin second. DeFerrin's a little bit closer now. Michael Andretti came here third, but Castroneves got around him. And now Michael sits in fourth, and Scott Dixon was fifth when the race started and is now seventh. Gary?
Helio Castroneves ends up in the podium with third. How tough was this day? Because you kind of bounced around in the field, almost got out of the top 10 a couple of times.
I tell you, they were absolutely right. I mean, I don't know what happened in the pits. The first pit stop, we came back in 9th or 10th or something like that. And then the pit stop did a fantastic job. We leave like really fast, and it was a really big battle behind that. And thank God I was able to jump and be in third place.
How tough was it to get race ready with this compressed schedule today?
It's very tough. I mean, with the old situation, thank God everybody's going home safe, and all my prayers to Alex, and I'm sure he will be back with us.
Thanks, Helio. They want you up there in that podium. Got a trophy for you, I believe. He's on his way.
So getting ready for the first time for the official ceremonies, awarding of the trophies, and it's going to be a great trip home for Team Penske, with Jill DeFerrin taking the win here. There's still more to come from Rockingham Motor Speedway. We'll be right back. Well, while it was a great race here at Rockingham Motor Speedway, not without some issues at the end, because we're hearing reports that there may be a protest in the offing. Gary Gerald is on his way to check that one out right now. Amazingly, a good deal of the crowd is staying to watch these final celebrations. There's the main grandstand here, and in front of it we give you the unofficial
D'Amata is here. Cristiano, now what is the complaint and what happened between you and Castroneves?
It's a very simple issue. They moved because we all asked for safety reasons that the end of the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit was moved a couple of 100 feet ahead, so he wasn't in the middle of the turn, so he went switch off. There's no problem of losing the car there. And I think he forgot, because where the line used to be in the morning, he went and switched his pit crews off. And he passed me, and he passed Michael too. So suddenly, inside the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, his car just went bop and passes both. So I heard Tim Cool Green is actually protesting him too. It's very clear. If they see it on TV, it's crystal clear.
Okay, so in your mind, it's a clear-cut issue. You think you should be in third place, is that right?
Yeah, in my mind, I am third. I should be on the podium.
He should be on the podium. There he has it. Well, the officials will have to sort it out. Thanks, Cristiano, and good luck.
Thank you.
Now there is the blend line And originally that was where you were to also be able to accelerate, but they moved it on down the track to that second marker. That marks the time you can accelerate, and as Cristiano said, the idea was, especially considering the accident last week, to avoid a situation where the car was still in a turning moment when you jumped hard onto the throttle.
Well, you are full throttle with this pit speed limit engaged, and when you take that button off, you get all 850 to 900 horsepower all at once. It's difficult for the drivers to hit the button, feather the throttle out, and get it right back on. We saw the problem last week at Germany with Alex Zanardi. They've moved it down, and when we watched those cars exit the pits on the last stop,
you saw that.
De Ferran had a huge lead coming out of the pits, but between Castroneves, Michael, and also D'Amata, I said, well, that's kind of interesting, because I watched Castroneves slide down the inside of both those cars and remarked that I was kind of surprised that they let that go.
Yeah, Gary Gerald. We're going to watch him as they come out. Let's see. There's Castroneves. Michael comes out.
See, De Ferran disappears. Now watch these three cars. They're at the end of the pits. Now watch Castroneves continue to slide past Michael, and then also Cristiano. Now there's the end of the pit speed there, not at the end of the last pit. Clearly, I think, Paul, he passed both Michael and Cristiano D'Amata while still under the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Well, so, Gary, now we've seen it on video. Do you have more from down there?
Well, just a quick follow-up, Paul, and I think it's kind of humorous. I haven't been able to confirm this exactly with the team, but we are told that Carl Haas had his crew immediately go back into the garage to their respective lockers, rummage through their pants pockets, because if you file a protest, you got 30 minutes to do it. You've got to have $1,000 cash money, and of course everybody's been converting money over here. I don't know if they pulled their money in British pounds or if it was in U.S. dollars, but they collected enough to go file the protest.
Well, you can't put your American Express down on that one, huh?
Apparently not. And maybe that's just another bizarre capper to a bizarre 2 weeks in Europe.
Carl Haas asking the crew for money. Now watch as they come out of the pits. You'll see De Ferran exits well ahead of everyone on the right. Kenny Breck, the next car in line. Then it's Cristiano D'Amata, and look at Michael Andretti coming out of the pits, and now you can see Castroneves launch. In the past, the last pit box right here would be the end of the speed limit. But now watch. You've got Breck, D'Amata, Michael Andretti, a nose ahead at this point of Castroneves. Now, as we continue to let this roll, Castroneves will come off the button just momentarily. You can see there Michael's about a half wheel ahead. Castroneves passes Michael. Now, the question is, at that point, who's at 49.7 miles an hour versus 49.8, 49.9? But he clearly drives right past D'Amata, and if given the chance, you can see there he actually locked up the brakes a little bit, it looked like. Little smoke coming out of the back as he starts to then get on the throttle hard. They come out. Michael on the left, Cristiano on the right, Kenny Breck in the middle. Castroneves launches out of the box. Kanan coming up from behind.
It doesn't matter, though, the positioning until they actually get to the blend line itself.
Right. Which occurs as they come out.
He took a pretty good slide coming out of there, too.
Yes, he did. Here comes the blend line. As long as everybody's at 50, who crosses here first? Now, that's the old blend line, but the speed limit continues around the corner. So you can see at least D'Amata's ahead of Castroneves. Castroneves ahead of Michael, but the end of the pit speed limit is right there, just around the corner. That's going to be very interesting to resolve.
Oh, more confiscated videotape. I can see it coming now. Chris Neifel, the chief steward, will be down here wanting to see another couple of shots of that one. Well, De Ferran, though, unofficially is the winner. Breck solidly in second. The rest, there might be a question. We'll be back.
Today's ESPN Speed World coverage of the CART.2001.Round is brought to you by FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series, and by 1010-220. Dial it, and all calls up to 20 minutes are only 99 cents.
In 2 weeks, CART returns to the United States for the Texaco Haviland Grand Prix of Houston. Coverage begins on Sunday, October 7th at 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2 with CART Today, and then at 2 o'clock Eastern, ESPN will bring you live coverage of the Texaco Haviland Grand Prix of Houston. Jimmy Vassar looks to make it 2 in a row on the streets of downtown Houston. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Well, you can imagine that the community here was shocked by the injuries to Alex Zanardi. And it closed even tighter considering the very tough stay that they have had in Europe. We were able to talk to the drivers and ask them about Alex Zanardi.
It's obviously very difficult. We go through stages of, not understanding why these things happen. And I get angry. I go through a period where I'm angry because, we're all working hard every week, and the motor racing has tremendous highs and lows.
I cannot stop thinking about Alex and his wife and the kid and everything, the future for him and all that stuff. So, when I'm in the car and I need all my concentration, I'll feel at my best.
I really have a great belief that we're going to see him hopping around soon because, it's in his heart.
It's tough. I mean, it's not easy. I miss him a lot, but he's with us. That's the most important thing.
We certainly all send our best wishes on to Alex Zanardi. Well, Parker, it seems like the Brits got a good race in front of them.
The smell of methanol in the afternoon air. Gilles de Ferran wins his first race, looking for his second championship. Kenny Breck once again dominant, but the good news, Paul, Alex Zanardi continues to improve, and we're going home.
The CART Championship continues to be tight. NHRA is coming up next. I'm Paul Page for Parker Johnstone, Gary Gerald. It's been a long time in Europe. We're coming home now. We'll be in Houston next. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, and we'll see you in Houston.